Chapter 1235. Is this Dong Huangji preparing to usurp the position of the family master? Yi Hua asked curiously. Dong Huangfei shook his head. You are wrong. Dong Huangji loves the East Emperor a lot. He should be doting on the East Emperor. Yi Hua couldn't help but start imagining the scene of an old man doting on another old man. That scene is so unbearable. I don't want to see that scene. So this Dong Huangji is East Emperor Ji's backing? Yi Hua asked. Dong Huangfei shook his head. You are wrong. On the contrary, the family master doesn't really care about his uncle. Oh. There is such a thing. Yi Hua was curious. This uncle dotes on his nephew, and the nephew doesn't care about his uncle. This is so weird. This big family is very messy. As subordinates, we can't be too gossipy, right? Yi Hua seemed to be able to understand. Those subordinates of mine aren't the 8 trigram supreme overlord. They will instantly know everything that happens. They even know that I am quarreling with my wife. How can you believe that? Can you arrange it? Yi Hua asked faintly. Yes, then can you all be my subordinates? After all, you all understand. Yi Hua nodded his head. I shall be the Empress's subordinate for the time being. I shall go and take a look at this youngster's assembly, then I shall explore this Dong Huang family. All right, I will go and arrange it then. You all can rest here tonight. I will bring you all to the Orange Building tomorrow morning. Yi Hua let out a breath, then stood up and walked towards Dong Huang Baiji. My Empress is a little. I don't even know what to say. This relationship is too complicated. Yi Hua didn't say anything, and he immediately hugged onto the Empress. What's wrong? Are you still imagining things? Yi Hua asked lightly. His tone was very gentle. Dong Huang Baiji seemed very heavy. Yi Hua, do you think that I am a product of power struggles? No, you are a product of me. Dong Huang Baiji, Yi Hua, is this how you comfort people? Dong Huang Baiji said angrily. Baiji, your starting point is wrong. You are an independent person, no matter where you come from. Look at Lai Gu and the others. Is their birth very glorious? That's obviously not the case, but it can't stop us from living a happy life, so what you're thinking now is unnecessary. Dong Huang Baiji felt that Yi Hua's words were somewhat reasonable, but she felt that it was a bit crooked. Then, if I was really an illegitimate daughter, would you despise me? Dong Huang Baiji turned around and looked towards Yi Hua, feeling extremely wronged. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. From the moment I tricked you onto my bed, I no longer despise you. Dong Huang Baiji, can't you just comfort me? Hateful, Dong Huang Baiji said petulantly. Let's just forget about it. It would already be good if I don't anger myself to death. He was so angry that he wanted to laugh. Look, you're smiling. I don't want to talk to you for even a minute. Dong Huang Baiji snorted, then walked to the flowers and plants at the side, and her expression became serious once again. Yi Hua said helplessly. When he turned his head around and took a look at Qing Su, he discovered that Qing Su had become much more docile. This can be considered as a good thing. Now that he had solved Baiji's problem and lured Wei Chang's master out, everything would be fine. Orange Tower. This was the highest sacred palace in the Dong Huang family, and it was a place that all of the disciples wanted to go to. However, it wasn't that easy to enter the Orange Tower. One had to go through layers upon layers of selections to enter the Orange Tower. However, the disciples that were able to enter the Orange Tower all held important positions, and they had to dedicate their entire lives to the Dong Huang family. It sounds like they were brainwashed. Alright, in actuality, they were brainwashed. The higher the position, the more serious the brainwashing would be. Just look at Dong Huangfei and Dong Huang Qingru, they were brainwashed without any need to be brainwashed. They would gossip and even directly admit defeat, not even wanting to fight. At least, they had some self-awareness. The orange tower was the tallest tower, and one would be able to see the outer space from here. The night was truly very beautiful. In actuality, the orange tower was the tallest tower that the family had lived in. One would be able to have a panoramic view of the entire Donghuang family, as well as the mysterious and vast universe. Being a family head truly feels great. On the top floor of the tall tower, there was a round table, and two figures were currently sitting cross-legged across a small table. In a blink of an eye, one of them was Donghuang Jishang, and the other was Jiang Wuyu, the family head of the Jiang family. I say, Jishang, I'm going back. Why are you still holding me back? Jiang Wuyu drank the wine, and he had no intention of leaving at all. This was simply taking advantage of him, and yet he was still pretending to be obedient. Donghuang Jishang sipped the wine, frowning as he looked at the stars. Why? I heard some news just now, and I suddenly stopped talking. Jiang Wuyu asked curiously. Just now, a man in black suddenly appeared and whispered a few words into Donghuang Jishang's ear. Jiang Wuyu didn't want to eavesdrop, after all, it was a matter of another family. Donghuang Jishang laughed, and he seemed very helpless and a little bitter. This news caught me off guard, Donghuang Jishang said in a low voice. Do you want me to give you some advice? It's useless. Advice won't work, Donghuang Jishang said in a low voice, and he seemed very strange. This made Jiang Wuyu even more curious. Hence, Jiang Wuyu joked, could it be that your illegitimate daughter came to look for you? Donghuang Jishang was stunned, and then he said, I have no children in my life, so how can I have an illegitimate daughter? You are thinking too much. Then why are you so worried? This has something to do with my big brother. Jiang Wuyu became solemn, and he asked in a low voice, what does it have to do with your big brother? Back then, I fought with my big brother for the position of the clan leader. You should know about this, right? Yes, legend has it that you made your big brother a cuckold. Is this true? It seemed that no matter how strong one was, one's heart for gossip would always be there. Donghuang Jishang looked at Jiang Wuyu from the corner of his eyes. You also know that it is a legend. Can you still believe it? Then what exactly happened? Why did your big brother go missing? Jiang Wuyu was already in suspense. This matter was one of the highest secrets of the 9 provinces and 5 seas. Donghuang Jishang said indifferently, dead. I knew it. You must have killed him. Then you took his sister-in-law for yourself. You are a pervert. Can't we talk properly? I'm just joking, don't be so nervous, Jiang Wuyu said as he took a sip of wine. As for how he died, I can't tell you. This is an important matter that involves the clan, Donghuang Jishang said solemnly. Jiang Wuyu could understand. Actually, your big brother, Donghuang Shini, was a genius. Unfortunately, he was killed by you. The struggle for the position of clan leader is really terrifying. Jiang Wuyu sighed. It was the same for his side. The position of clan leader was a position that was stained with blood. End of this chapter. Chapter 1236. Donghuang Jishang sighed, that's right. Big brother's wisdom and knowledge are better than mine, what a pity, Jiang Wuyu was startled. He seemed to have understood. Your big brother changed. Am I right? Jiang Wuyu asked. Donghuang Jishang stopped talking. Jiang Wuyu said, seems like your big brother. He was absorbed by imperishable shrines people and then you guys killed him, am I right? Whatever you think, Donghuang Jishang said indifferently. The more he explained, the more complicated it would be. Jiang Wuyu did not dwell on this question. What else could he do? But Jishang, the seal has been a bit strange recently. Seems like there is an expert helping you, Jiang Wuyu said solemnly. Dongwang Jishang nodded. I called you here today to discuss something. Then why did you only call me? To be on good terms with you. The other two are very arrogant. Actually, I am also very arrogant, Jiang Wuyu added. Dongwang Jishang smiled. If you were to be seen like this, your reputation would be lost. Reputation is fleeting to me. I have already thought it through. If not for this seal, I would not be bothered to be the family master. Act. Can you act more like it? Hee, you can see through me. Let's talk about proper business. How are we going to deal with this seal? Strengthen it. Jiang Wuyu said seriously. He was worried about the seal. We can only strengthen it. There is no other way. But we still need a backup plan. Once the seal is broken, we need a way to deal with it. Although I don't like those two old men, I think we still need to gather them and discuss how to deal with it. Dongwang Jishang said. One person's strength was not enough. That palace master was very strong. This is the only way. Wait for me to deal with this matter. What is it? You will know tomorrow, Dongwang Jishang said. Dongwang Jishang obviously knew about Dongwang Baiji's arrival. Everything that happened in the Dongwang family had spies. How could Dongwang Baiji's appearance be hidden? Still keeping me in suspense. Alright then, I'll stay and see what's going on. It's a little troublesome. I don't know where that uncle of mine found a servant recently. This person's yin qi is very heavy, and just looking at him makes me feel uncomfortable. Dongwang Jishang was a little annoyed. Jiang Wuyu warned, I think that uncle of yours is quite dangerous. You have to be careful, or else he might kill you. I know, I will. Dongwang Jishang said gravely. He did not have any good impression of his uncle at all. He even felt that his uncle was a smiling tiger. On the surface, he seemed to support him a lot, but in reality, she just wanted him to be a puppet, just like the time when she congratulated ascended goddess Mangyao. She didn't even tell him anything and just sent an eccentric person to deliver the congratulatory gift. She didn't even put him in her eyes. However, given their seniority, he could not be too calculative about it. Otherwise, others might say that there was something wrong with him as the clan head. The two continued to sit on the top floor, drinking the fragrant wine, and not saying a word. However, Yihua was currently chatting with Qing Su. However, Yihua wasn't drinking any wine nor was he drinking any water. Yihua was currently smoking. Even Qing Su loved to smoke, and he was immediately led astray by Yihua. Did you gain any enlightenment during these few days? Yihua breathed out a mouthful of green smoke. The green smoke dispersed in the air, and it gave off a rather beautiful feeling. Qing Su's hand gesture of holding the cigarette was a little rusty, and it could be seen that he was a newbie. Even the way he looked when he was smoking was very awkward, and Yihua wanted to extinguish his cigarette. This is simply wasting my food. I have to ask Qingye to bring back a few boxes of food for me. However, I don't expect Qingye to bring back a box of food for me. Qing Su spread out the cigarette ash, and in the end, the ash even landed on his pants. I did gain some enlightenment. Qing Su said in a low voice. That was indeed the case. What did you gain? Gain, no brains, Yihua, are you saying that I have no brains? No, I'm not talking about you alone, I'm talking about everyone. Yihua almost choked on his own cigarette. This bastard. I'm getting a bit carried away. However, what Qing Su said makes sense. When you are around, everyone has no brains. That fellow Wei Chong betrayed us. Qing Su asked curiously. Along with Qing Su's question, Yihua became a bit happy. You know about Wei Chong. How can I not remember about that man-eating monster? Qing Su let out a breath. Seems like you have remembered about him. More or less. Then why aren't you bowing? What are you standing there for? Ching Su rolled his eyes. Do you have to be so quick? If I had known, I would have said it. I didn't remember anything. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and move. You are so fat, you need to move to lose weight. Ching Su really wanted to throw out a handful of poison. Ching Su had no choice but to stand up, but he was pressed down by Yi Hua. Forget it, with your body size, if you were to bow, you would look like a meatball. The corner of Ching Su's mouth twitched slightly. Your Honor, don't mess around. Welcome back to this sovereign's team. Thank you, Your Honor. Yi Hua was finally gratified. At least, Ching Su, this fellow, is normal. Sigh, it is actually perfect now. Yi Hua let out a long sigh. Your Honor, this indestructible shrine seems to be a bit powerful. It is better for us to be more cautious. Ching Su warned. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. To be able to make Wei Chang change sides, this indestructible shrine is indeed quite powerful. Chapter 1237. Dou Fusher looked at His Honor, then looked at Ching Su who was at the side. Dou Fusher went into a daze for about half a second, and the expression on his face slowly turned from shock to grievance. Afterward, Yi Hua fiercely hugged onto Yi Hua's thigh. Your Honor, this person, he humiliated me. I am so miserable. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows and looked towards Ching Su. I am starting to regret my decision. Can I change back to how I was just now? It should be possible. It'll just take some time. Ching Su nodded and said seriously. Your Honor, don't. I am your loyal subordinate. Dou Fusher was scared out of his wits. Actually, in the few days that he had been a puppet, he still had his own consciousness. Every day, he had to take pills and bathe in bugs. It was simply disgusting. All right, be serious. Stand up. Yi Hua said faintly. You are a big man, why are you crying? Your wife, soul separation, is the one who is a man. For you, she even went to train herself and almost died. Dou Fusher felt wronged and immediately stood behind Yi Hua with a vigilant look on his face. To this fatty, Yi Hua was just like a demon. Your Honor, are we going to take action tomorrow? Ching Su asked. If nothing unexpected happens, we will be taking action soon. Yi Hua nodded his head. Everything that the Donghuang family owes me, I have to pay them back. Of course, Ching Su wouldn't object. He loved big scenes, and it was especially comfortable to stir up trouble. Rest early. There should be a good show tomorrow. Yes. Yi Hua extinguished the cigarette, then walked into the room. Today, the Empress actually went to sleep early. She actually doesn't plan to serve me in bed. In the past few days, I have not even had the time to take revenge against those who have killed me. After taking off his clothes, Yi Hua squeezed into the blanket and hugged onto Donghuang Baiji's soft body. In his heart, Yi Hua was feeling very happy. An outstanding woman like Donghuang Baiji will only be hugged by me. Don't mess around, I don't want to. Donghuang Baiji said in a low voice. Donghuang Baiji was not in the mood today. Of course, Yi Hua knew that Yi Hua was actually just going to hug her for a bit. In the end, the Empress thought that I was going to make a move on her. Do I, the Supreme Overlord, look like that kind of person? He had really underestimated the Supreme Overlord. Baiji, the truth will be revealed tomorrow. Yi Hua said tenderly. The truth is no longer important. That's good. Is that okay? Donghuang Baiji hammered Yi Hua's head unhappily. All right, your head. I'm not in a good mood, unless you coax me. Sob, Donghuang Baiji. following Yi Hua's whining, Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but laugh out loud. This bad fellow, when he starts acting cute, no one is able to stop him. Yi Hua, don't learn from us and become a whining monster. Donghuang Baiji didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, she was still very happy in her heart. After all, in order to make me happy, Yi Hua was willing to be a whining monster. Yi Hua also felt that it was very unnatural, but for the sake of their relationship, he still had to. Is that okay now? You. I'm really convinced. Which man is like you? Be gentler, you're hurting me. I haven't touched you yet. Pain your head. Yi Hua flicked onto the Empress's forehead. The Empress pouted. That. Baiji, this pouting is no longer suitable for you. This is the action of a little girl, you are already past that age. The Empress wore a dumbfounded expression. Yi Hua. Go make a bed on the floor. Sleep. Don't touch me. Looking at the Empress holding onto the blanket and rolling herself up, Yi Hua had a dumbfounded expression on his face. Is there something wrong with what I said just now? Baiji, what I said just now was to teach you to become a bit more mature, not to be so childish. Donghuang Baiji, look at our Ollie, she likes to pout from time to time, but you can't, you are already old. Yi Hua. If it weren't for us, you would be a bachelor for the rest of your life. How is that possible? With just a wave of my hand, there would be a whole bunch of women. Then go and look for a whole bunch of women, don't look for me anymore. Donghuang Baiji was about to go crazy from anger. Too lousy, not interested. Yi Hua said solemnly. Donghuang Baiji was so depressed that the whites of her eyes floated out. This bastard, he actually dares to say such words in front of my own wife. If it was any other woman, they would have already started fighting with you. Seeing that the Empress didn't speak anymore, Yi Hua felt a bit bored. The night is long, and I am unable to fall asleep. I can only take action silently. Wife. Yi Hua called out lightly. What? I love you. Donghuang Baiji, not knowing why, when Donghuang Baiji heard Yi Hua say these 3 words, she felt like laughing. This fellow can anger you to death, and at the same time, he can also make you laugh to death. Don't think that just because you say a few nice words, I will let you play with me. Donghuang Baiji said angrily. Baiji, I can't fall asleep. Other than playing with you, I have no other entertainment. Scram. Donghuang Baiji felt that her blood pressure was a bit high. Sooner or later, she will be angered to the point that she will have a stroke. Yi Hua couldn't understand why she would be laughing a second ago, and then get angry the next second. I have never been like this before. Wife. Don't talk. So boring. Go and masturbate. Yi Hua became silent. Donghuang Baiji was a bit puzzled. This fellow is actually not talking. Could it be that he is angry? Don't think that just because you are angry, I will go and coax you. Wife, did you ever let pigs go when you were young? Yi Hua suddenly asked. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes and said unhappily, I didn't. Wife, you are so perverted, you didn't even let pigs go. Donghuang Baiji went into a daze for a moment, then flipped over and pressed onto Yi Hua. Yi Hua. You tricked me. Ha ha ha. Yi Hua let out a hearty laugh. Tricking my wife is quite interesting. You are still laughing, I am going to hammer you to death. Yi Hua grabbed onto the Empress's hands, then flipped over beautifully, pressed onto her, and kissed her passionately and caressed her. And then, everything happened naturally. I am an expert at picking up girls. Not willing. That doesn't exist. If you want to learn more from me, then all the big sisters will flock to you. The next morning, Yihua and Donghuang Baiji woke up early, and Yihua changed into his guard uniform. When a person becomes handsome, he will look good in anything he wears. Donghuang Baiji specially dressed up today, and her beauty was simply suffocatingly beautiful. Yihua felt proud just by looking at Donghuang Baiji. I even enjoyed myself last night. Donghuang Baiji looked at Yihua's expression. How can I not know what he is thinking? He is definitely thinking that I just had fun with this woman last night, how bold and unrestrained she is. From the looks of it, the Empress understands Yihua very well. After walking out of the door, Wanwan walked over while wearing the maid uniform, and Qing Su and Dou Fushi were also wearing the guard uniform. Donghuang Fei and Donghuang Qingru walked over slowly. End of chapter. Chapter 1238. Miss Baiji, this is the command plate. You can directly head to the orange building with this command plate. I won't be accompanying you all up, I understand. Donghuang Fei squeezed out a smile. Of course, he wouldn't be leaving with Yihua and the others. What should I do if I get implicated? I will be in deep trouble. So, I understand. Donghuang Baiji accepted the command medallion and thanked Yihua. Donghuang Baiji appeared to be very polite. Yihua liked this aspect of the Empress very much, and the children were also taught very well. With the token in hand, the journey was smooth. Wanwan, who was in the team, was already sweating profusely. These people are trying to stir up trouble. How dare they walk into someone else's territory? What if that floor leader betrays us? How can your hearts be so big? On the other hand, Yihua was hoping that Donghuang Fei would go and inform on them, and after that, he and the others would be completely surrounded, and after that, he would be able to start acting cool. Let the people of the Donghuang clan know that this sovereign's woman is not someone they can afford to offend. Stop them. Right when Yihua finished thinking, an angry shout rang out from behind him, and then, a group of people surrounded him. There were at least 10,000 people gathered above him, and there were also several thousand people surrounding him. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Yihua was a little stupefied. I was just thinking about it blindly just now, and it actually succeeded. Then, all of you are forcing me to act pretentiously. What should I say? Right now, as long as His Honor says a word, all the people around Qing Su would be killed in an instant. It can be said that they wouldn't even know how they died. Baiji, what do you want to do? Yihua asked faintly. After all, this was Donghuang's territory, and it could be considered the Empress's maiden home. It was better to be safe. Donghuang Baiji stared ahead. She did not expect that she would encounter such a thing right after she came out. Yihua. Donghuang Baiji called out lightly. What happened? My legs are a little weak. What's wrong? Yihua asked worriedly. It's all because of you. How dare you ask me what's wrong? Yihua, let me do it. Yihua stood in front of Donghuang Baiji and protected her behind him. According to the usual practice, Yihua had to take out a stick of cigarette and light it up. If not, he would feel that something was missing. Just as Yihua was about to speak, everyone kneeled down. This time, Yihua was completely stupefied. What is going on? Are you guys kneeling to me? Or kneel to the Empress? Right now, Donghuang Baiji was also feeling very tempted. Why do I feel like they are kneeling down to me? Could it be that I have already been exposed so quickly? But none of them were. Greetings, great uncle. Tens of thousands of people shouted in unison. That kind of majesty immediately swept across the entire place. Wanwan's face was already pale from fright. Why did something happen right after I just walked out of the door? I told you not to come, but now, the grand uncle of the Donghuang clan is here. That was Donghuang Zizi. Within the entire Donghuang clan, he was the one with the most seniority. Two people walked over from afar, walking in the air with a majestic aura. Even before they arrived, their auras had already arrived. Yihua slightly narrowed his eyes and looked at the two people who were walking over. That old man should be Donghuang Ci. As for the young man beside the old man, then I don't know him. Wait, this shouldn't be called a man, right? It doesn't seem like a man. This man who was not a man was, of course, Donghuang. However, Donghuang had never thought that he would see his empress in such an occasion. Empress is even more beautiful than before. I, Donghuang, am the man who is going to marry empress. No one is as noble as I, Donghuang. This man. It's this man again. Back then, when Ying family showed off his might and made Ying family become his lackey, my father didn't dare to disobey, but I dared to. Empress is my, Donghuang Ying's, woman. No one should even think about tainting her. Who will? Who will? Empress, why don't you look at me? It's me. Back then, you wanted to marry me, why didn't you keep your words? Furthermore, you don't even recognize me now. Donghuang Baiji naturally didn't recognize Donghuang Ying. Back then, she only said it in a fit of pique, and she didn't even meet Donghuang Ying. Fortunately, the betrothal gift was robbed, and the one who robbed it was even Death Mage. I really didn't expect this. Yihua, of course, wouldn't recognize Death Mage. I have only heard of such a person, but I have never seen him before. If Qing Yutang and Yi Zizi were here, they would definitely have seen Death Mage before. After all, they were the ones who stepped on the lamp wick and broke it. Right now, Qing Su was very excited, the fight is finally going to start. Dou Fusher felt that it was time to show off his strength. Although he had been a little disgusted recently, his strength had definitely increased tremendously. At the moment, Jiang Wuyu and the East Emperor Pole were in the Orange Tower. Patriarch. Grand Uncle, bring some people and surround those people. A black-clothed man suddenly appeared and shouted respectfully. Donghuang Ji Shang's expression froze. Got it. The man in black disappeared in an instant. He was really competent. Your uncle was faster than you, Jiang Wuyu said in a deep voice. Yeah. He seems to be in a hurry. Who is that person? Donghuang Ji sighed deeply. You will know when the time comes, let's go first. Things have already come to this, and you still won't speak. Is there any meaning to this? Jiang Wuyu hurriedly chased after him. He felt that the Donghuang clan was about to undergo a huge change. At the venue, Donghuang Ci looked at Donghuang Baiji, and Donghuang Baiji looked at Donghuang Ci. As for Yihua, he took a look at Donghuang Ci, then looked at Donghuang Baiji. He felt that the two of them didn't look alike at all. This Donghuang was too ugly, but when he looked at the Empress, she was simply too beautiful. He couldn't even be compared to a single strand of the Empress's hair. What is your name? Donghuang Ci asked faintly. His tone contained a heavenly encompassing aura, causing others to have no choice but to speak the truth. Everyone could feel the might contained within his tone, and they lowered their heads slightly and remained silent. Donghuang Baiji was the same as well. Qing Su was already used to seeing Donghuang Baiji. Right now, Dou Fusher was also very strong, and he was able to casually resist Donghuang Baiji's attacks. However, Wan was a bit unable to resist. Yihua had no choice but to protect Wan. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, "My name is Donghuang Baiji." Donghuang Ci's long face didn't have any fluctuations. Donghuang Baiji. Welcome home. Following this sentence, both Yihua and Donghuang Baiji were stupefied. The disciples and the surroundings were stupefied. Just what is going on? They mustered such a large force, and in the end, they only surrounded Donghuang Baiji for a bit. Yi Hua was filled with hatred. I should have made a ruckus earlier, but right now, Dong Huang Ji's tone is so low, where would I find a good excuse? However, right at this moment, Dong Huang Ji appeared. Meanwhile, Jiang Wuyu hid within the crowd and didn't appear together with Dong Huang Ji to prevent others from gossiping about him. Greetings, family head. Everyone kneeled down and greeted Dong Huang Ci. Dong Huang Ji waved his hand, then cupped his hands towards Dong Huang Ci and said, Uncle, why did you come out today? End of this chapter. Chapter 1239. So it's the patriarch. Dong Huang said softly. However, the tone of his voice was a little strange. Especially the way he addressed Lin Fan as family head. It was as if he was addressing a child. It wasn't very respectful. At the very least, that was what Yi Hua heard. Yi Hua also saw the legendary family head. He couldn't be counted as an old man, at most, he could be counted as someone who had just stepped into the ranks of old men. However, to these people, age was nothing. However, Yi Hua was very curious as to which of these two people would have a relationship with the Empress. Whose child was the Empress? Uncle, what are you doing? Dong Huang Ji took a look at Dong Huang Baiji, and he was clearly a bit stunned. Of course it's to welcome the younger generation back home. Baiji, don't you think so? Dong Huang Baiji looked at Dong Huang Baiji and said with a slight smile. Yi Hua felt that this smile didn't seem to be a real smile, and it belonged to the kind where the skin and flesh didn't move. Dong Huang Baiji didn't feel very good, and thus, she didn't say anything. However, the surrounding disciples were all astonished. They thought that they were here to capture the enemy, but who would have thought that they were here to welcome someone? Dong Huang did not mind this time, and said softly, Child, I know you have a lot of questions in your heart, I will tell you. Uncle, you don't have to worry about this. Dong Huang Ji Shang smiled. Yi Hua could clearly feel that there was a problem with this. According to the development of the plot, this East Emperor Ji shouldn't be a good person, and this East Emperor Ji Shang shouldn't be a good person either. Seems like only this Supreme One is a good one. My Empress is really, although Yi Hua was thinking like this, he felt that between the two of them, one of them would definitely want to harm Dong Huang Yi. Especially this Dong Huang Yi, with just a glance, Dong Huang Yi could tell that he wasn't a good person. Beside him was a guy who was neither a man nor a woman. How can that be? No matter what, this is a big matter of the Eastern royal family. We cannot look down on it. Dong Huang chuckled, appearing quite strange. Dong Huang Ji frowned for a moment, then he smiled and said, Why don't we talk inside? This time, Dong Huang Baiji didn't pay any attention to those words and said to Dong Huang Baiji, Child, can you display your abilities? Everyone was confused. Show? Show what? Of course, it was to display the pure bloodline of Dong Huang. Dong Huang Baiji didn't know whether she should do this or not. Yi Hua seemed to be able to sense the bewilderment that the Empress was feeling. Turning his head around, Yi Hua said with a smile, Let them see what is called purity. Looking at Yi Hua's smile, Dong Huang Baiji felt that her confidence had returned, and she wasn't that afraid anymore. Nodding her head, Dong Huang Baiji regained her confidence, and an imposing aura was being emitted out from the Empress' body. This is what an Empress should be like. Everyone was able to sense the change in Dong Huang Baiji. This was a familiar aura, very pure. So pure to the point that Dong Huang Ji and Dong Huang Ji Shang frowned. This purity was above theirs. A gigantic three-legged golden crow could be seen appearing behind Dong Huang Baiji's back. The golden wings of the crow spread open, and boundless might engulfed the entire world. This is the real three-legged golden crow. Everyone knelt down. The three-legged golden crow seemed to have its own intelligence. It raised its head slightly and enjoyed everyone's worship. Dong Huangji and Dong Huangji were incomparably shocked as well. This bloodline was purer than anyone else's. However, when it appeared on a woman, it was unimaginable. Dong Huanging, who was at the side, had a look of worship on his face. I am her fiancé. Ants like you can only kneel down and worship me. Dong Huanging was even fantasizing that in the future, he would be able to stand beside Dong Huangbaiji and enjoy these ants kneeling down and worshipping him. I, Dong Huanging, will not hesitate to marry the Empress. I, Dong Huanging, love this kind of feeling. You people, you can only kneel down and worship my women. My eyesight is so sharp. Among the millions and millions of women, I was able to find someone as beautiful as Dong Huangbaiji. Furthermore, she even has such an identity. I am truly lucky. Dong Huangbaiji kept the image, and there was not much expression on her face. Dong Huangji appeared to be a bit grave as he tightly wrinkled his brows. Dong Huangji calmed himself down and said with a smile, as expected of the purest bloodline. Dong Huangbaiji, the entire Dong Huang family is proud of you. Dong Huangbaiji. All of the disciples shouted out. Why do I feel that this Dong Huangji seems to be chasing Dong Huangji Shang off the stage? From what Dong Huangji said just now, the purest bloodline means that Dong Huangji Shang is even purer than Dong Huangji Shang. And to say that the entire Dong Huang family is proud of the Empress, isn't this just making Dong Huangbaiji's identity high? Was this to pave the way for him to become the next patriarch? This Dong Huangji's schemes are very deep. With just a single sentence, he managed to make everyone approve of this person who had just entered the clan. Dong Huangbaiji appeared to be very calm and collected. After all, she had been following Yihua, and what kind of big scenes had she not seen before? A scene like this could only be considered as child's play. All I want to do is to find out about my own identity. What family head? I don't really care about it, it's the same for anyone to be the family head. Child, come with me. Dong Huang said lightly, then turned around and walked towards the building that was at the side of the orange building. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it. After all, the house seemed to be in the clouds. Yihua wanted to see what kind of tricks Dong Huangbaiji was going to play this time. Thus, he brought along Dong Huangbaiji and followed after Dong Huangbaiji. Qing Su and Dou Fushi followed suit. Wan had been so scared that her legs had turned to jelly, but she hadn't expected the situation to change like this. Jiang Wuyu, who was within the crowd, was very astonished. This woman, he had never heard of such a pure bloodline before. It seemed that she was an illegitimate daughter. This is practically a scandal. It seemed like the Dong Huang clan was going to become the main topic. Who would have thought? Dong Huangji helplessly followed suit. Amidst the clouds, an ordinary courtyard, flowers, plants, an ordinary pavilion, an ordinary house, everything was so simple and unadorned. It's a bit simple and unadorned. Dong Huangji said lightly with an indifferent look on his face. Dong Huanging would occasionally sneak a peek at the Empress. I really want to hold on to that little hand of mine, but now is not the time. Yihua seemed to be able to feel that this androgynous person was currently sneaking a peek at his wife. Dong Huangbaiji was also able to feel that this person was occasionally sneaking a peek at her. Dong Huangbaiji really wanted to dig out his eyes, because she could see possession within his gaze. However, Dong Huangbaiji still wanted to know, where exactly did I come from? My father. Is he my biological father? And my mother that I have never seen before? Everyone walked into the house and discovered that the furnishings within the house were even more simple and unadorned. A bed, a table, and a few stools. Dong Huanging, go and pour some tea. Yes. Dong Huanging replied respectfully, then left. Dong Huangji looked towards his nephew and said lightly, Jishang, aren't you going to host the youngsters' assembly? It's still early. Dong Wang Jishang said indifferently. End of chapter. Chapter 1240. Dong Wang Ji nodded his head. Sit down then. All right, uncle. Yi Hua and Dong Wang Baiji sat down, while the others stood at the side. At this moment, Dong Wang Ji asked curiously, Child, this is my husband. Oh, good. Dong Wang Ji looked at Yi Hua and praised. Yi Hua remained silent. Whether I am good or not, it is not up to others to judge. Dong Wang Ji sized up Yi Hua and discovered that this man is a bit arrogant. If Yi Hua isn't arrogant, would he still be called Yi Hua? After pausing for a while, Dong Wang Ji looked at Dong Wang Baiji and said, Child, it has been hard on you for so many years. Dong Wang Baiji didn't know why, but why do I feel that? I feel that this is the love of an elder. That tone of hers is doting. What is going on? For even Yi Hua to have such a feeling, just what exactly is going on? Me? Who is it? Dong Wang Baiji asked gravely. Dong Wang Ji smiled faintly. Child, do you still remember your childhood? Childhood? Dong Wang Baiji went into a daze. My childhood. My childhood. Dong Wang Baiji was a bit confused. What was my childhood? Seeing that Dong Wang Baiji's expression was a bit weird, Yi Hua asked gravely, What's wrong? Yi Hua, my childhood. I can't remember. You can't remember? Yi Hua asked confusedly. Dong Wang Baiji indeed couldn't remember her childhood. It seemed that ever since she could remember, she had the appearance of an adult. He had never thought about it, but after Dong Huang's question, he couldn't think about it anymore. Yi Hua asked gravely, Baiji, where did you grow up? I don't know. I seem to have always. Looking at Dong Wang Baiji's expression, Yi Hua was certain. That father back then is definitely not my father. Furthermore, Dong Wang Baiji was taken down after she became an adult. Right now, Yi Hua was very curious, just what kind of secret does the Empress have? Dong Wang Ji pointed at the table and said lightly, It is normal that you don't know, because the place where you grew up is here. Hearing such news, Dong Wang Baiji's mind went blank. I actually grew up here. Then, how are we going to explain what happened in Voidless Realm? I'm talking about here. Dong Huang emphasized again. Dong Wang Ji Shang, who was at the side, didn't say anything. Here? Yi Hua asked puzzledly. Yes, your wife grew up here. Yi Hua was really confused. My woman actually grew up in such a small place. Then what was the reason? Who let Dong Wang Baiji grow up here? Dong Wang Baiji was already shocked to the point that she was speechless. Extreme high, are you still not going to call for reinforcements? Dong Wang said indifferently. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Call for help. What does that mean? Dong Wang Baiji. Call me mommy. F***ck me. This plot was a little exaggerated. Believe it or not, I will smash your head. Qing Su and Dou Fusher, who were standing at the side, also had stupefied looks on their faces. It seems like we are thinking the same thing as Yi Hua. Could it be that this family head is going to call me mom? If that's the case, then this matter is going to be huge. His honor is actually so miserable. Wan Wan's chin was about to drop onto the ground. This Dong Huang family's gossip is simply too explosive. Dong Huang Baiji was startled. Looking at Dong Wang Ji, who was in front of her, this slightly older man, he wouldn't start calling me mommy, right? Don't call me mommy. Dong Wang Ji closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Everyone looked at Dong Wang Ji's mouth movements and held their breaths. Even their scalps were a little numb. Yihua felt that as long as this Donghuang Ji calls me mommy, I will slaughter everyone here. Everything is a plot. Big sister. Following the word big sister, Donghuang Baiji was stupefied. Yihua's mouth slightly opened. Qing Su and Dou Fusher didn't expect this at all. This is almost the same as calling me mommy. Wanwan also didn't expect that this Donghuang Ji would actually call me big sister. What the F***ck was going on? Everyone's mind was filled with a huge question mark. I am your big sister. Donghuang Baiji asked blankly. Donghuang Ji nodded his head, and his expression seemed to be a little unwilling. However, Donghuang Ji said lightly, "Child, you are my big brother's daughter. Donghuang Ji is your blood-related younger brother, and Donghuang Shani is also your blood-related younger brother." Donghuang Baiji started sweating. Just what is going on? How did I suddenly have two blood-related younger brothers? Yihua felt that, it's hopeless, it's completely hopeless. Originally, I thought that this is a plot, and I suspect that this is a plot, but looking at the situation, it should be a problem with Donghuang Baiji herself. Why did I come here alone when I was young? Either I have mental problems, or I don't get along well with others, just like me. Then, why did I go to other places? Why? Donghuang Baiji had a lot of questions in her mind. Donghuang Ji said lightly, "Because, you killed Donghuang Shani, and almost killed Donghuang Ji as well." Yihua's expression was very interesting. To be able to make a supreme overlord reveal an embarrassed expression, I reckon that there isn't anyone else in this world. My own woman actually didn't even let off her blood-related younger brother. Isn't this too cruel? Could it be that this Donghuang Ji doesn't have a good expression the moment he arrived? I am about to be killed by my own big sister, how can I still have a good expression? However, I, the supreme overlord, I seem to be liking the Empress more and more. I just like this kind of blood Empress, this is too explosive. Donghuang Baiji didn't know what to say anymore. How did I become the person who killed my blood-related younger brother? It must be fake. You have had a problem since you were young. Donghuang Ji pointed at his own head and said. Yihua was speechless. I actually guessed correctly. The Empress was mentally abnormal when she was young, which is why she was left alone at the side. After that, the Empress who had gone insane killed her own blood-related younger brother, and in the end, the Empress was exiled from the family. This should be the plot, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. However, why do I feel that there isn't anything wrong with the Empress's intelligence? Donghuang Ji said lightly, when you were born, the entire Donghuang family suffered from a plague, and a lot of people died. Therefore, you are an inauspicious person. Furthermore, you have a bit of a mental problem, which made everyone feel even more suspicious of you, and that's why they locked you up here. Your father had only seen you twice, the first time was when you were born, and the second time was when he sent you away. Your mother had only seen you once, and that was when you were born. All of the nannies who had taken care of you before had already died. Even now, I can still vaguely remember the short and small you holding onto a small knife and standing beside a corpse. Donghuang Ji's words caused everyone to be shocked. Yihua felt that what Donghuang Ji said was nonsense. After all, there isn't any evidence at all. Donghuang Baiji doesn't believe that I am that kind of person. How is that possible? End of this chapter. Chapter 1241. Why? Mother only met her once. Yihua asked curiously. Donghuang Ji Shang said faintly, Mother knew that big sister killed her little brother, so, she was angered to death. Yihua, Donghuang Baiji found it hard to believe. This is fake, right? Qing Su and Dou Fusher were both shocked. Your wife actually has such a dark history. Donghuang Ji said faintly, Baiji, actually, some things cannot be blamed on you. Those nannies who took care of you back then all had the intention to harm you, that's why you fought back. I only found out about this matter after investigating for a long time, and I suspect that their goal was to harm you. Yihua felt that this old man really knows how to keep me in suspense. I was just wondering why my woman looks so kind-hearted as to kill people indiscriminately. Back then, although there was something wrong with your mind, most of it was normal. Furthermore, you were more mature than your peers, and your strength was also top-notch. At that time, I realized that you might be the first goddess in the entire 9 provinces and 5 seas, and not Meng Yao. It's a pity that Dong Huangshan entered the indestructible shrine. Back then, you saw through him with a single look and killed him. And when Ji Shang wanted to save Big Brother, he was injured by you as well. You are simply too strong, this is what a pure bloodline looks like. In the end, your father still agreed to send you away, erased your memories, sealed your strength, and told Dong Wangpei to protect you. Child, after so many years have passed, you are finally back. Seeing how you are now, I believe that your father's spirit in heaven would be gratified. After all, you are also his flesh and blood. Everyone wanted to kill you, but he protected you. Yihua remained silent. I don't know if what this old man said is true or not. While Dong Wang Baiji's expression was calm, her heart was in turmoil, and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Is my identity real or not? Can I believe what they say? Dong Wang Ji said lightly, I know that you won't believe me. After finished speaking, he waved his hand, and an image appeared in front of him. This was Dong Wang Baiji. She was currently sitting in the pavilion outside, and her expression was a bit dull, making her look very young. Yihua looked at the pavilion outside, it looks exactly the same. However, this doesn't seem to explain anything. Dong Wang Ji looked calm, but his heart wasn't calm either. Yihua, I'm a bit tired. Dong Wang Ji said lightly. East Emperor nodded his head. East Emperor Ji stood up and said, I'll bring you guys to rest. Yihua didn't say anything. I have a feeling that there's something fishy about this, but for the time being, I don't know what it is. Should he let White Bones come over to scout for information? After all, White Bones was an abnormal person, a bug. Forget it, there's no meaning in the main Supreme Overlord cheating like this. The main Supreme Overlord is already cheating with his own strength. If his subordinates were to cheat as well, then that would be too arrogant. Following behind Dong Wang Ji Shang, everyone arrived at the Orange House. On the way, Dong Wang Ji Shang was very quiet, seemingly as if he didn't want to pay attention to this big sister. Yihua didn't say anything. So what if you don't pay attention to me? My woman doesn't care about this place at all. The disciples of the Orange Tower were puzzled. Why would the family head personally bring a few people along? He was puzzled. Feel free to stay in this row of rooms. Dong Wang Ji Shang said softly. Yihua said faintly, you can go now. Dong Wang Ji Shang looked at Yihua with hostility in his eyes. Yihua was not afraid at all, and he stared back at Dong Wang Ji Shang. I have never been afraid of anyone. If you're hungry, call the servants. Dong Wang Ji Shang spoke indifferently. After that, he disappeared from his location. Yihua snorted coldly, Baiji, go and rest for a while. I don't think that these people are good people. I'm going to rest, Yihua. Dong Wang Baiji said in a low voice, then walked into the room. Yihua still wanted to go in and comfort the Empress, but in the end, Dong Wang Baiji closed the door. In Dong Wang Ji's room, Dong Wang Ji appeared once again. Uncle, are you still unwilling to give up, just like father? All these years, I've been waiting for Baiji's return. Dong Wang Ji Shang said in a deep voice. Ji Shang, your father would do anything for this matter. Now, Baiji has come back on her own accord. Isn't this a good thing? Dong Wang Yi took a sip of his tea. Dong Wang Ying, who was standing behind him, was also a little confused. Dong Wang Ji Shang said in a deep voice, "Uncle, back then, when Dong Wang Pu escaped with Big Sister, wasn't it because he wanted to avoid your pursuit? Moreover, Eastern Emperor Shen Yi deserved to die. Bastard! Why did Dong Wang Shen say that he was your elder brother? Dong Huang Baiji's body is a sacrificial offering. Uncle, no one is a sacrificial offering the moment they are born. These are all groundless things that you all forcefully added onto them." Dong Huang Ji Shang said in displeasure. Dong Huang Ji let out a nasal snort, then said in disdain, "Didn't you not point it out just now? You are afraid that Dong Huang Baiji will threaten your position, right? Isn't that all because of you, who allowed Baiji to clearly display her strength in front of everyone?" Dong Huang Ji Shang hated this kind of person. Dong Huang Ji Shang calculated everything and used his position to force me to stand on his side. "Nephew, you are in charge of the entire Dong Huang family. When did uncle interfere with your matters? You also know what uncle is waiting for, and you also know that for the sake of this matter, uncle will do anything." Dong Huang Ji Shang took a deep breath, then took a look at Dong Huang Ying with a look of disgust, then left. This is also a kind of tacit agreement. At this moment, Dong Huang Ying asked respectfully, "Master, didn't you say that?" Dong Huang Baiji, "That's right, I won't go back on what I promised you. Isn't a soulless body better?" Dong Huang Ji said faintly, then walked out of the room, leaving behind Dong Huang Ying, who had a strange look on his face. A soulless body. Dong Huang Ying tightly wrinkled his brows. What I want is not a soulless body. An empress like that would no longer be an empress. Master! You actually lied to me. Dong Huang Ying was very angry. We had a promise back then. I sold my soul so that I can obtain Dong Huang Baiji. But now, you actually went back on your words. Dong Huang Ying tightly clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. On the other side, Yihua, Qing Su, and the others were currently feeling bored, and Wan had already gone back to her room to sleep. Yihua brought Qing Su and Dou Fusher to the Orange Building, planning to go and watch that youngsters' match. "Qing Su, do you have any way to lure out imperishable shrines people?" Yihua asked faintly. "Subordinate doesn't have any way to do it yet." Yihua looked at the enormous Orange Building. "This Orange Building is probably even bigger than my Wushu Empire. Is there any way to lure out Wei Chang?" Yihua asked again. "Subordinate doesn't have any way to do it yet." Yihua, Dou Fusher. Tell me. Dou Fusher's heart was about to collapse. Why do I keep asking questions? I don't want to answer questions at all. Your Honor, subordinate doesn't dare to say. End of chapter. Chapter 1242. Just say it. Your Honor, I feel that. Lord Qing Su has a better idea. Dou Fusher wasn't going to fall for Qing Su's trick. Qing Su said softly, Your Honor, subordinate believes that Wei Chang will appear sooner or later. Yihua felt that it was better not to ask. These two people still don't have brains. However, Your Honor, I feel that Dong Huang is a little strange this time. Qing Su said in a low voice. Dou Fusher nodded. I still think that person is a little strange. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then said faintly, I feel that everyone is acting weird. The three of them walked slowly towards the youth assembly. They stood high up on the spectator stand. Although it was a little far away, it was not a hindrance. On a stage, a fierce battle was currently happening. However, Yihua didn't have the mood to watch it at all. Qing Su, if they wanted to do something bad to Baiji, when would they choose to do it? Yihua asked curiously. Qing Su said in a low voice, if it were me, now would be the best time. Now? Yi Hua muttered. That's right. I am not by Donghuang Baiji's side right now. This is a good opportunity for me to make my move. He knew that Donghuang Baiji's mood wasn't good, and she would definitely want to be alone. There weren't many people around her, and it would be the best time for him to make his move. After hearing that, Yi Hua did not become excited, and he also did not have any plans to go back. Even if something were to happen, it would be them who would be in trouble. You guys really don't know anything about Her Majesty. She is a fiery hot woman. Only in front of me, she is like a little lamb. Just as they were chatting, a person appeared behind them. Yi Hua and the others knew about it, but none of them chose to turn their heads back. They were just that arrogant. Since they were standing at the back alone, did they have to turn their heads back? There are too few people who are able to make me turn back. Donghuang Baiji is in danger. The person who came was naturally Donghuang Ying. He knew that Donghuang Ying had already gone to harm Donghuang Baiji, and he was powerless to do anything about it. Thus, he could only come and tell Yi Hua about it. Although Donghuang Ying wanted the Empress, he wanted the complete Empress, not a soulless shell. Yi Hua heard it, but he still didn't turn his head around. Why are you telling me all these? Why? Donghuang Baiji is in danger, aren't you going to save her? Donghuang Ying asked in a deep voice. Why was this man so calm? He was like this when he attacked Ying family, and he was still like this now. Save her. You don't understand. You should go and save your people. Yi Hua smoked the cigarette and blew a mouthful of smoke into the air, appearing to be very comfortable. I was just worrying that the ghost did not come out, and now that the ghost has come out by itself, it saved me a lot of trouble. Donghuang Ying frowned, then turned around and left. The Empress must have been blind to marry such a man. Within Donghuang Baiji's room, right now, Donghuang Baiji was not lying on the bed. Instead, she was sitting beside the wooden window and looking into the distance. His mind was in a mess, and he didn't know what to do. In the past, I seemed to be a bad woman. In any case, I was the kind of woman that was not welcomed, and was doubted by everyone. Dong dong dong, at this moment, the door rang. Who? Donghuang Baiji asked confusedly. Yi Hua definitely wouldn't knock on the door, and Yi Hua's subordinates wouldn't knock on the door either. Baiji, it's me. Donghuang's voice sounded slowly. This caused Donghuang Baiji to feel very puzzled. Why did this man come here? It was very strange. Please come in. Donghuang Baiji shouted out in a low voice. Donghuang Ji pushed open the wooden door and walked in, then said with a smile, Baiji, have you gotten used to living here? It's pretty good, the environment here is pretty good. Donghuang Baiji said lightly, seemingly not putting up her guard against Donghuang Ji. A trace of a smile appeared on Donghuang Baiji's face. It's fine as long as you feel that it's good. It has been a very long time since you have returned home. Home. Everything here is very unfamiliar to me. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. She did not feel that this place was her home. Where there is a home, there will definitely be a Yi Hua. Donghuang Ji laughed lightly, then sat on the wooden chair and patted the white shirt that he was wearing. Baiji, how is your body? Donghuang Ji suddenly asked. Donghuang Baiji's gaze became serious. Leaning on the windowsill with one of her hands, Donghuang Baiji looked at the back of Donghuang Ji's head with a puzzled expression. You? Baiji, I am really happy that you are able to come back. After all, I have been waiting for you for a long time, and in the end, I was about to give up. However, I met a person. At that time, I knew that we would meet each other sooner or later, and thus, I have been waiting for you. If Donghuang Baiji still doesn't understand right now, then she would have been an empress for nothing. This Donghuang Ji wants to harm me, and I am the one who delivered myself to him." However, Donghuang Baiji was also very confused. "What is the name of that person that you are talking about?" "Oh, his name is Donghuang Ying. He is a slave that I took in. In the past, he was called In Kongshi, right? In Kongshi." Although Donghuang Baiji had never met In Kongshi before, she still knew that name. It's actually that. Donghuang Baiji doesn't even know how to address that person anymore. "Back then, I only went to that place because I was angry. I didn't expect that In Kongshi would actually become Donghuang Ying. My God, I didn't expect that." "Do you feel that your body doesn't have any strength left?" Donghuang Ji asked faintly. "What are you trying to do?" Donghuang Baiji questioned coldly. Donghuang Ji stood up, then turned around and looked towards the weak Donghuang Baiji. "The Donghuang family is afraid of one thing, dragon incense. This is a type of sandalwood incense. As long as one smells it, one's entire body will become weak, and one will not be able to circulate one's energy." Donghuang Baiji looked towards the sandalwood incense that was at the side and tightly wrinkled her brows. "You guys had planned this from the start." "I'm sorry, what you said is correct, everything had indeed been planned out." "Why? Your attitude in the past wasn't like this. Could it be that everything that you said was a lie?" Donghuang Baiji tightly held onto the windowsill, not letting her body fall down. Beads of sweat had already dripped down from her forehead, and she was gasping for breath. Donghuang Ji took out a handkerchief and lightly wiped away Donghuang Baiji's sweat. "Child, you were born with extraordinary talent, and even your father was envious of you. Your bloodline is the purest in history. This caused our hearts to be clouded by lard, and in order to obtain your bloodline, we could only separate you and raise you separately. You guys are raising me like this. You can understand it that way. However, I didn't expect that your strength would become stronger and stronger, and it seems like you are a bit out of control. Originally, your father planned to directly kill you and seize the power of your bloodline, but what a pity. You killed a path of blood out of him. Also, because of you, your mother took a blade from your father, and that is the true cause of her death." Donghuang Ji said with a slight smile, seemingly not placing the matter in his heart at all. To experts like them, as long as there was a better way to break through, they would be willing to pay any price. End of this chapter. Chapter 1243. Furthermore, Donghuang Baiji was only a child, and this child was born by them in the first place. Therefore, they believed that they had the right to decide the life and death of this child. This was the cruelty of a large clan. No, it should be the cruelty of the world. Donghuang Baiji finally understood. So it turns out that what she said earlier was all a lie, and this is the truth. He had been locked up since he was born. It could be explained as being raised. These people were just spying on his bloodline. It was a tragedy to be born in such a family. "You want to obtain my bloodline?" Donghuang Baiji asked in puzzlement. "That's right, child. Your bloodline is the purest in the Eastern Emperor clan. If you obtain it, unifying the 9 prefectures and 5 seas is also possible." This time, Donghuang was not interested in the position of clan leader, but in the 9 prefectures and 5 seas. He wanted to get rid of the other clans to show how strong the Donghuang clan was. Donghuang Baiji knew about the temptation of power, but she didn't expect that they would be so cruel just for the sake of power. "Child, do not be afraid. There will be no pain." This time, Donghuang flipped his palm and a black pillar appeared in his hand. "This pearl was prepared for you. Your father didn't get to enjoy it, so I got lucky." This time, Donghuang smiled. This smile of his seemed to be sincere and happy, as if he had finally achieved what he had been waiting for many years. However, at this moment, the door was pushed open, interrupting their conversation. Dong Huang's face darkened. He said coldly, "What are you doing here?" The person who came was naturally Dong Huanging. Just now, Dong Huanging went to look for Yihua, yet Yihua didn't come. How could Dong Huanging possibly sit still? The Empress was won by me, Dong Huang. Including the soul. No one could move. Master, don't suck her soul. This was the first time Dong Huanging acted arrogantly in front of Dong Huang Yi. In the past, he was always respectful towards Dong Huang Yi. But now, he seemed very calm. Because Dong Huanging knew that if he did that, he might very well die. But even if he were to die, he would remain firm in his belief. The Empress is mine. I'm the man who's going to marry the Empress. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Ing Kongshi. This was the person that she wanted to marry in the past. However, that was only a decision that she made after getting angry. Dong Huang Ji didn't even turn his head and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? How dare you beg me? You promised me before. Let me have her." Dong Huanging shouted angrily. This liar. Hearing Dong Huangying's words, Dong Huang Baiji was very surprised. I didn't expect that they would have such a transaction. In that case, they are in conflict right now. It seems like you're here to question my decision. This time, Dong Huanging was already emitting killing intent. I have been absorbing for such a long time, why isn't there any reaction? This doesn't seem to be possible. While wrinkling his brows, Dong Huanging continued to wait. Dong Huanging, are you feeling very confused? Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice. Dong Huanging did not say anything. I don't feel very good. Logically speaking, I have already absorbed all of my bloodline, so why isn't there any reaction at all? Dong Huang Baiji continued, in actuality, other than Dong Huang's bloodline, there is another bloodline within my body. There is another bloodline. Dong Huanging cried out in surprise. That's right, that bloodline is called Yihua's bloodline. Dong Huang Baiji knew that the power of Yihua's bloodline had already fused with her body, even Qingye had Yihua's bloodline. To be more precise, as long as one gives birth to Yihua's child, one would be able to possess Yihua's bloodline. This is definitely a super great benefit. If all the women were to know about this, they would definitely flock towards it. This is simply a cheating tool. Yihua's bloodline. What bloodline is this? Dong Huanging asked confusedly. This bloodline is very powerful, powerful to the point that I don't even know how powerful I am. Dong Huang Baiji raised her head and looked towards Dong Huanging. Her slightly arched body gradually straightened up. Although the black pearl was absorbing the bloodline, it was unable to absorb anything. Dong Huanging didn't believe it. Stretching out his hand, Dong Huang Baiji held onto the black pearl with his hand and used his own cultivation technique to increase the absorption power. Dong Huang Baiji just stood there without moving. However, Dong Huangying's expression became more and more grave. How is this possible? It is impossible for there to be a mistake. End of this chapter. Chapter 1244. Dong Huangji, the one who made a mistake is not the pearl, but yourselves. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly. She was extremely disappointed in this family. Dong Huangji looked at Dong Huang Baiji in disbelief. You are not Dong Huang Baiji. Are you panicking? Dong Huang Baiji slowly sat on the wooden chair at the side. Dong Huang Baiji's slender fingers were placed on the armrest as she looked at Dong Huang Ci with her eyes. Dong Huang Baiji appeared exceptionally calm. Compared to the perplexed Dong Huang Ci from before, the current Dong Huang Baiji was the real empress. Dong Huangji's expression tensed up as he stared at Dong Huang Baiji, as if he was trying to see through her. However, he didn't manage to see through her. After a long time, Dongwang Ji laughed lightly and said faintly, Baiji, I have still underestimated you. As expected of the most talented person in Dongwang family. After so many years, you have become even more powerful than before. Seems like your pure bloodline has helped you quite a bit. I don't know about bloodline, but I do know that having a powerful man is much more important than bloodline. Dongwang Baiji's lips formed an arc. Bloodline is nothing. Dongwang Ji frowned. He didn't expect that this would happen and deviate from his plan. Looking at Dongwang Baiji in front of him, Dongwang Ji had the intention to kill her. However, if he were to make a move, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. At that time, everyone would know that he was going to steal her bloodline. After all, Dongwang Baiji had displayed her bloodline before. I shouldn't have done that back then, but who knew? This woman actually became so powerful that I can't even suck her bloodline anymore. Are you thinking of killing me? Dongwang Baiji asked lightly without any fear. But are you afraid that the commotion would be too big and that it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess? Dongwang Baiji was, after all, an empress. Dongwang Ji said gravely, Baiji, you have become very smart, but this will only speed up your death. You want me to die? Are you sure? After all, I have a man who regards me as important as his life. Dongwang Baiji said proudly. In any case, Yihua is not here, so I might as well boast as I want. Dongwang Ji snorted coldly, Baiji, the current you looks much more comfortable than before. Of course, because I'm not that easy to provoke, and I won't be bullied by you. Dongwang Baiji's tone gradually became cold. Towards those who wanted to harm her own people, Dongwang Baiji would never be soft-hearted. On this point, she was different from Qinya. So. Therefore, you will die today. Dongwang Baiji said lightly, announcing Dongwang's death. Dongwang chuckled. You're announcing my death? How arrogant, even more arrogant than before. You are thinking that I don't dare to make a move here, right? Yihua flicked the cigarette but that was on his finger and said faintly, originally, I planned to insta-kill you, but you felt that I wouldn't dare to kill you openly. This made me a bit surprised. In this world, there is nothing that I, the Supreme Overlord, don't dare to do. Just when Yihua finished speaking, a powerful aura suddenly blossomed, forming a powerful airwave. The room was instantly blown over, and Wanwan who was sleeping at the side immediately let out a scream. I thought that someone was going to kill me, and when she saw Yihua who was not far away, she hurriedly ran over. Not a single building in the surroundings was spared, and all of them collapsed. Everyone felt and even heard such a thing happening in the Orange Building. Dongwang Ji who was hosting the youngsters' assembly frowned. What is Uncle doing? Something's wrong. This aura isn't Uncle's, there isn't even a bit of bloodline aura, it belongs to someone else. Jiang Wuyu who was sitting at the side said in a low voice, something happened here. I know. Dongwang Ji immediately disappeared from the spot, and Jiang Wuyu hurriedly followed after him. Today, the Dongwang family will not be peaceful anymore. As the disciples of the Orange Building, they all rushed towards the location of the incident. Right now, Dongwang Baiji was a bit dizzy. Yihua is trying to blow this matter up. I originally wanted to kill Dongwang Ji stealthily. Does Yihua really think that I am afraid of him? You all treated my woman like that, how can you all not pay the price? Do you all really think that my temper is that good? You are truly thinking too much. Dongwang Ji didn't expect that Yihua would actually dare to do such a thing. With such a huge commotion, everyone in the Dongwang family would definitely know about it. The matter went out of control again, and this caused Dongwang Ji to be very angry. This man is truly crazy. End of this chapter. Chapter 1245. After all, Donghuang Ji still wanted to continue living here. However, Yi Hua was different. He stood on the side of reason and did not need to consider his face at all. Since the other party was already bullying me, do I still have to give in? That's impossible. Yi Hua felt auras flying over. The first to appear was naturally Donghuang Ji. There was another person that Yi Hua did not recognize, and that person was naturally Jiang Wuyu. Very quickly, the surrounding area was filled with people from Donghuang family. Everyone was very confused. Uncle and Donghuang Baiji. What is going on? Donghuang Ji looked very solemn, and his face was very gloomy. Jiang Wuyu, who was standing not far away from Donghuang Baiji, tightly wrinkled his brows as he looked at Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji. What is going on? Donghuang Ji asked in a low voice. As the family master, he had to display the dignity of a family master. Yi Hua stood up and said faintly, although you are the family master, shouldn't you greet your big sister when you see her? Donghuang Ji. Yi Hua wanted to make things clear to everyone. The disciples who did not know what was going on were all stupefied. Donghuang Baiji is the family master's big sister. I have never heard of the family master having a big sister. Donghuang Ji was very angry. This man is going to leak out this scandal. Jiang Wuyu was even more astonished. This woman is actually Donghuang Ji's big sister? When did I have a big sister? Didn't I only have big brother? The surrounding people immediately started discussing. Donghuang Ji shouted out angrily, everyone, quiet down. Audacious. You are actually spreading rumors. Donghuang Ji shouted out again. Of course, he had to redeem the family master's face. This kind of thing definitely cannot be leaked out. Yi Hua sneered and looked at Donghuang Baiji, seemingly saying that your blood brother really doesn't like you. Compared to Donghuang Baiji, Yi Hua seemed to be much more fortunate. At least his blood brother acknowledged him as his big brother, and he was very obedient. However, Donghuang Baiji's blood brother would rather care about his face than acknowledge her as his big sister. This was truly disappointing. Indeed, Donghuang Baiji could feel the disappointment in her heart. Right now, she did not feel like a family at all. To her, these people were even more unfamiliar than strangers. Yi Hua said faintly, the two of you want to monopolize the pure bloodline, what a great scheme. Nonsense. I, the Eastern monarch, will never do such a lowly thing. The aura of the Eastern monarch poles spread out, and there was an indescribable feeling of holiness, which made this sentence much more believable. The Eastern monarch Ji had indeed not done such a thing. This was the truth. Yi Hua looked towards Donghuang Tachi, the great uncle in everyone's hearts. What about you, Donghuang Tsai? Yi Hua questioned. This time, Donghuang's face was calm. Everyone was dumbfounded and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. What just happened? Why did it become like this? Behind Yi Hua, a large crater appeared, and within the large crater, a figure was lying on the ground. Without needing to think too much, everyone knew who the figure was. Yi Hua stood with his hands behind his back and said faintly, flashy and useless. All the disciples were shocked. Donghuang Jishang and Jiang Wuyu's jaws almost dropped to the ground. This man. He slapped Donghuang to the ground. Donghuang, who was in the crater, was trembling slightly. He placed both of his hands on the ground as if he wanted to stand up, but he didn't have the strength to do so. But this time, Donghuang's heart was filled with shock. Just now, he didn't even see the other party's movements, and he already felt a huge force on his face. His mind went blank, and the huge impact made him unable to stand straight. Even now, he couldn't think straight. Wan Wan was stunned. This man could actually slap Donghuang to the ground. Was this still a person? Was that a god? Dong Huang was considered one of the best in the 9 states and 5 seas this time, and yet he was taken care of so easily. Dong Huang Baiji didn't say anything. Even if these people were to die, I wouldn't feel any heartache. After all, they only have themselves to blame. This move of Yihua's shocked everyone, and they basically did not dare to make any movements. After all, the one that was beaten up was Tai Shu. He was no small fry. At this moment, Yihua took out a cigarette and lit it up. He took a deep breath and exhaled. Not dead yet. He seems to have some ability. Everyone took in a breath of cold air. Not dead means that he has ability. Then, if he died, that means that he doesn't have any ability. Dong Huang Jishang vomited out a mouthful of blood. Until now, he still didn't understand why he lost. There are still a lot of big moves that I didn't use. End of this chapter. Chapter 1246. Flicking away the ash from his cigarette, Yihua looked towards the person he was talking about. As expected, you are unable to let me exercise my muscles and bones. Who is the next one? The East Imperial Pole. Are you coming up? With the cigarette in his mouth and both of his hands inside his pocket, Yihua's actions were insufferably arrogant. Wan was already stupefied. Just who is this person? To actually be able to deal with Dong Huang, this old man, with a single slap, and even now, he is still twitching. Was he going to die? Right now, Dong Huang's entire body was twitching. It was as if he was struggling before death. Dong Huang Baiji was able to see everything clearly. However, right now, she did not feel any pity for Yihua at all. Of course, Dong Huang Ji also saw it. He didn't have any impulsive thoughts in his heart, but as the family head, he still had to say what he should. How dare you kill granduncle? Too arrogant. Dong Huang Extreme Supreme roared furiously. This kind of person was simply infuriating. Yihua snorted coldly, so it is only now that you realize that I am indeed very arrogant. I'll give you a chance. This time, Dong Huang stopped convulsing. He died just like that, directly killed by a single slap from Yihua. A golden primordial spirit floated out from Dong Huang's body, and the primordial spirit fled at high speed. Only those who experienced it would know just how formidable that slap of Yihua's was. That was the most terrifying slap that Dong Huang had ever seen. I have still underestimated these people too much. But could Dong Huang escape this time? It was obvious that he couldn't escape. The golden primordial spirit gradually turned dark green before falling from the sky. It fell to the ground with a thud and turned into a pool of green water. That was a little scary. How could his primordial spirit turn into water? Who did it just now? The man didn't move at all, and the people behind him didn't move either. However, Wan knew that it was definitely that fatty who did it. Jiang Wuyu already had a fearful expression on his face. In front of them, he was completely defenseless. Hopefully, Dong Huang Ji wouldn't be rash as well. If he were to do so, he would definitely die. Now was not the time to be impulsive. But Dong Huang Ji was the family head. There were some things that he had to say. Otherwise, he would lose face today. Don't look like you want to kill me. Why don't you make a move? Yihua swayed his palm, indicating that the slap just now was very pleasurable. Especially that instant when the slap went down, that slap sound was extremely shocking. However, Yihua had to admit that he had indeed used too much force just now. If he didn't use too much force, he wouldn't have been able to slap Yihua to death. Everyone around them knew that if this man could slap Tai Shu to death with one slap, then he could slap anyone present to death. Yihua crooked his finger towards Dong Huang Ji. Dong Wangji didn't want to step out, but his body didn't listen to Yi Hua and floated forward. The disciples could only watch as their patriarch was humiliated by the bad guys, but they did not dare to do anything. After all, the bad guys were too ferocious. Rushing forward was no different from courting death. Eastern Emperor Ji Shang, speaking of which, I still have to call you brother-in-law. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Dongwang Ji Shang's expression was not good. Right now, I will give you a chance to live. Call for help. Yi Hua said faintly. He wanted me to acknowledge Dongwang Baiji's identity. Didn't he say that it was fine just now? A struggle appeared on the Eastern Monarch pole, as if he was making a decision. When Jiang Wuyu, who was in the group, saw this scene, he somewhat wanted to leave, but he was afraid that he would be caught the moment he turned around. That would be even more tragic. Seeing that Dongwang Ji was struggling, Yi Hua said faintly, "Seems like I have to give you some motivation." "No need, I will call for help." Dongwang Ji was naturally a smart person. "Since I am going to call for help, I might as well call for help now. If not, when I get beaten up later on, I will still have to call for help." Dongwang Ji raised his head and looked towards Dongwang Baiji, then shouted out in a low voice, "Big sister." Louder, did you not eat? Yi Hua really wanted to give Dongwang Baiji a slap. Dongwang Ji felt as if he was dreaming. "I am the patriarch. Why is it that after they came, I seem to have become a lackey? No. I am even more miserable than a lackey. Big sister. Brother-in-law." Dongwang Ji shouted out loudly. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. "I didn't ask you to call for me." Dongwang Ji felt wronged in his heart. "You are the one who said that if I call for help, then I will definitely include you." However, when everyone heard Dongwang Ji's words, they were all very astonished. Dongwang Baiji is actually the patriarch's big sister. Why didn't I know about such a thing? Just how many secrets are there that everyone doesn't know about? Yi Hua took a look at the surrounding people, then said towards Dongwang Ji, "Speak, tell me everything that happened." Dongwang Ji didn't want to speak. He looked towards Dongwang Baiji who was at the back. "I really can't speak about this. If I speak about this, the consequences will be very serious. The Dongwang family will really become the laughingstock of everyone." Dongwang Baiji chose to ignore Yi Hua's words. Towards this family, her heart is already cold. There's nothing that she wants to say. Yi Hua can do whatever he wants to do. "Brother-in-law, listen to me, this concerns Indestructible Shrine. Every single family is authoritative. If I were to speak about this, the authority of the Dongwang family will be lowered, and the power of sealing the shrine master will also be lowered. Therefore, I really can't speak about this." Yi Hua let out a heavy sigh. "I am asking you to speak, so speak. What indestructible shrine? Hurry up, I don't like people who waste time. I really can't speak about this." Yi Hua could be seen saying in a low voice, "I heard that after you die, that shrine master will be released." "You?" Dongwang Ji Shang looked at Yi Hua in astonishment. "This man is going to release Palace Master." Yi Hua nodded his head and didn't deny it. "That's right, I am going to get the Palace Master out. I want to see just how formidable this Palace Master is, to be able to bewitch even my subordinate." You simply don't understand how powerful that Palace Master is," Dongwang Ji said in a deep voice. This man was definitely crazy, a madman. Yi Hua snorted coldly. "Who does he think he is? Speak. Or die. Take your pick." Facing Yi Hua's threat, what else could Dongwang Ji do? He could only say, "This is what a smart person should be. Even if I die, I will still release him. Even if I don't die, I will still have to release him. I might as well just stay alive. How good is it to be alive? As Dongwang Ji spoke of the truth, everyone was shocked. This Dongwang Baiji was actually so pitiful. Even the old patriarch and granduncle wanted to obtain the bloodline and even wanted to kill him. Simply too inhumane. As a member of the Dongwang clan, they all felt ashamed. Jiang Wuyu knew that it was over. That palace master is definitely going to come out. Damn it, I have to go back and make preparations immediately. If that palace master comes out, he will definitely kill all of us one by one. After Dongwang Ji finished speaking, he collapsed onto the ground, and his eyes became lifeless. Today was the day of humiliation for the entire Dongwang clan, and it was all because of this man and woman. Stirring up trouble. Yihua was very satisfied and asked in a low voice, that palace master should be able to come out, right? 7 days later, the seal will be reinforced. End of this chapter. Wei Chang held on to his forehead and said helplessly, Lord Ming, I don't seem to have provoked you. Why are you targeting me like this? I am targeting you. You are one of the 7 sins, Wei Chang. Do you think that I don't know you? I don't believe that you will betray us just like that. Wei Chang let out a long sigh. You don't know how painful it is to work under his honor. You have to listen to him. If you don't listen, you will be scolded. Even if you do the right thing, you will still be scolded. You can only endure it. I have long been sick of this kind of life. So, I'm taking this opportunity to leave. TSK. You speak as if I will believe you. Lord Ming said in disdain. In any case, he didn't believe Wei Chang. However, Falling Dust still believed Wei Chang because he saw everything, but Lord Ming didn't see what happened. I believe that Wei Chang is loyal to the palace master. Lord Ming, you can shut up now. Humph. You will regret this. Lord Ming said coldly. Falling Dust revealed an apologetic look and looked at Wei Chang. Wei Chang expressed that he could understand. This kind of thing was very hard for others to accept. Alright, now let's talk about proper business. Falling Dust said gravely. Sweeping a glance at everyone, he said, the palace master is about to break the seal. Naturally, there will be no lack of killing. In this 9 provinces and 5 seas, I believe that everyone knows who sealed the palace master. At that time, the palace master will definitely kill that person. We will naturally follow the palace master and kill everyone. Let them know. The might of the imperishable shrine. Falling Dust's words were a bit hot-blooded, to the point that he was burning with passion. Drunken Cry, who was standing at the back, looked at Falling Dust's back, and a trace of tenderness appeared in his eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1248. Wei Chang asked curiously, when will the temple master appear? In a few days. Falling Dust said excitedly. The temple master was finally going to see the light of day. I'm so excited. I can finally see the temple master. What an honor. Wei Chang opened his arms again as if he was going to hug the temple master. However, Lord Ming snorted coldly. Act. Keep acting. Falling Dust stopped talking. He was too lazy to speak. Wei Chang smiled and did not bother with him anymore. When are we going to welcome the temple master? Wei Chang asked curiously. Falling Dust smiled. In a few days, we will go together to welcome the temple master. I believe that with our strength, those family heads can only tremble in fear. Of course. We will be loyal to the temple master. Wei Chang acted cool again, extremely sincere. Lord Ming snorted coldly. You are really not suitable for acting. Only these idiots will believe you. Lord Ming. I dare you to say another word. Drunken Cry shouted. She actually scolded the Imperial commander. Drunken Cry. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because falling dust is protecting you. Wei Chang smiled. All right, we are all from the imperishable shrine. Stop arguing. If the temple master sees us being so disunited, he will not be happy. That's right. Wei Chang is right. We need to be united, Lord Ming. You better behave yourself. Falling dust gave the final warning. Lord Ming snorted coldly and did not say another word. You will definitely regret it. You will not even know how you died. On the other side, Jiang Wuyu hurried back home to call for a meeting. His goal was for this matter. The East Emperor was dead. He was killed with a single slap. And that man's goal was to release the temple master. However, he did not seem to be from the imperishable shrine. But why would he release such a person? He really did not understand. Patriarch, from what you're saying, Supreme East Monarch will not appear this time. One of the elders asked in a low voice. Jiang Wuyu nodded. Yes, the East Emperor Pole will definitely not appear this time. Then the Temple Master will definitely appear again. When that time comes, the entire 9 states and 5 seas will be in danger. Then what should we do? Let's gather the other 2 families and kill that man. Are you stupid? He killed Dong Huang with a single slap, but if you go over, he will kill you with a single breath. Exactly. Then what do you think we should do? Are we supposed to wait for the Hall Master to come out and annihilate us one by one? Everyone quietened down when they heard this. Of course, it was the 4 great clans that were sealed. Based on the Hall Master's character, he would definitely take revenge on them one by one after he came out. Patriarch, what should we decide? There are only a few more days to reinforce the seal. We can't care about Dong Huang anymore. What we need to do now is to gather the strength of the other 2 families and prepare for the indestructible shrine. Jiang Wuyu didn't have any better ideas. There was no hope for the Dong Huang clan, and he didn't know which side the Hall Master would choose. If he directly went to the Eastern Royal Clan, that would definitely be the best, but if he didn't go to the Eastern Royal Clan, then it would be very troublesome. Patriarch, you have to hurry up. We don't have much time. Jiang Wuyu felt the same way. There was no time to lose. They had to quickly gather everyone. Within the Eastern Emperor clan, Yi Hua was currently chatting with Eastern Emperor Ji Shang. Oh. You are saying that the indestructible shrine was sealed by you all. In that case, if the Hall Master were to come out, he would definitely come and look for you all. Yi Hua asked. If nothing unexpected happens, that should be the case. That Hall Master is a person who will definitely take revenge. Eastern Emperor Ji Shang's expression wasn't very good. I am clearly in my own territory, yet I feel as if I am being imprisoned, and I don't have any human rights at all. Seems like there is no need for me to go out and look for the Hall Master, they will naturally come over. Yi Hua laughed lightly. This is good too. I just have to wait for the Hall Master to come over. Of course, there is also Wei Chang. Eastern Emperor Ji Shang remained silent. This man in front of me is a madman. Even a madman wouldn't do something like this. If the Hall Master were to be released, countless lives would be lost, and countless people would die under his blade. At that time, corpses would be strewn everywhere, and it would be hell on earth. Don't be nervous, it is just a small matter. Yi Hua said lightly. He took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then looked at the night sky. Right at this moment, Qingya's voice sounded out in Yi Hua's mind. Hubby, where are you? Baiji and I are outside looking for Wei Chang. How are the two of you doing accompanying mother? Yihua asked lightly, and a trace of an arc could be seen on the corner of his mouth. Mother is very happy. We just came back from the Alps, and mother even went skiing. She is very happy. Hearing Qingya's tone, Yihua knew that mother was truly happy. Yihua himself felt gratified as well. Are you planning to come back after playing for a long time? At least for 1 to 2 months. Mother is very interested in this place, and she doesn't really want to go back anymore. After all, mother is staying in the palace, and mother has nowhere else to go. Yihua let out a light sigh. That's right. When mother is staying in the palace, she really doesn't want to go out at all. If I were to choose, I would definitely choose to stay on Earth as well. However, there are still a lot of things that I haven't finished here. Yihua, mother said that this place is pretty good. Qingya said in a low voice. Chapter 1249. After returning to the room, Yihua saw that Donghuang Baiji was currently in a daze. Baiji, what's wrong? Yihua muttered. Donghuang Baiji let out a deep sigh. I really want to leave this place, it's uncomfortable to stay here. Yihua patted onto Donghuang Baiji's head. We will return after a few more days. Just now, Qingya told me that mother likes Earth a lot and decided to temporarily live there. That's right, that place is indeed good. I also want to go back and live there. Donghuang Baiji said softly. Yihua nodded his head. How about this? After I finish dealing with the matters here, we will go back and live there. Aren't you going to conquer the world? Donghuang Baiji asked confusedly. Yihua said faintly, let the children do this kind of thing. I am also a bit tired, it's better for me to live a peaceful life. Perhaps if those few years of comfortable life affected me. Yihua, are you really planning to? Donghuang Baiji said with a trace of happiness. In actuality, she didn't like this kind of life either. Going back and opening a bar is also pretty good. Yihua laughed lightly. Although that kind of life wasn't passionate, it was still very peaceful. Donghuang Baiji seemed to be reminiscing about that kind of life. Then, after you finish dealing with the matters here, we will go back together. Let's settle the matters in front of us first. Yihua's gaze became grave. That palace master's strength is definitely not ordinary, otherwise, Wei Chang wouldn't have betrayed us. In a few days' time, I might not only have to fight against the palace master, I might even have to fight against Wei Chang. Seems like I have to get serious too. I am a bit excited. After so many years, I can finally bring out my true strength. I am really looking forward to it in a few days' time. On the other side, Jiang Wuyu found the other 2 family heads and told them what happened. One of them was called Fu Wen, and the other was called Long Chu. The 2 of them were the strongest existences in the 9 provinces and 4 seas. After all, they were family heads, and their strength was unquestionable. They were both high gods. Fu Wen's expression was slightly grave as he said softly, there are still a few days before the seal ends, can we save Donghuang Ji Shang? I'm afraid it's a little difficult. Long Chu said coldly. His whole person seemed a little cold, as if he wouldn't smile at anyone. Jiang Wuyu nodded and said, that's right. This man was able to kill Donghuang Ji with a single slap. His strength is not something we can fight against. If we go and ask for him, I'm afraid we won't die in the hands of the Hall Master, but in his hands. If that's the case, then we can only fight. Fu Wen said solemnly. After hearing that, the 3 of them remained silent. Fighting is no different from dying. But if they didn't fight, they would still die. There wasn't much of a difference between the 2. Perhaps if the three of them worked together, they might have a sliver of hope. However, if they were to split up, there was no doubt that they would die. The three of them looked at each other and seemed to have made a decision. As the peak existences of this continent, if they didn't go up, who would? We need to be prepared, Jiang Wuyu said solemnly. Fu Wen and Long Chu nodded their heads. Let's go back and prepare. This is a life and death battle. Long Chu coldly said and took the lead to disappear from the stone bench. Fu Wen nodded at Jiang Wuyu and disappeared from sight as well. Jiang Wuyu sighed deeply and looked at the sky. He knew that the Hall Master would come out one day. However, he didn't expect it to be so soon. These few days would probably be the most difficult days for the three of them. But there was nothing they could do, should they run away. It wasn't that they didn't think about it. However, as a powerful being, they also had their dignity. Running away was out of the question. In a rocky hill in Tangzhou, there were all kinds of stones with strange shapes. But in a place like this, they didn't seem that important. However, these stones were indeed the key to sealing the Hall Master. They weren't ordinary stones. They were the stones that suppressed the Hall Master underground and prevented him from coming out. However, three figures stood on top of the rocks. These three people were naturally Jiang Wuyu, Long Chu, and Fu Wen. The weather today wasn't very good. It was drizzling, but for the three deities, the raindrops were evaporated by the strong airflow before they could even land on them. Although there are only three of us, we might as well give it a try. It would be even better if we could strengthen the seal. Long Chu said coldly. His tone was still calm and composed. After all, they weren't scared. Jiang Wuyu and Fu Wen nodded. Although they didn't believe it themselves, they still had to give it a try. If one looked down from the sky, they would see that the three people were standing at the edge of the spell formation. However, there was a corner that was empty. That was Donghuang Ji. It was a pity that he didn't come today. In the name of the heavens. Bless the world. Might of the earth. Suppress the evil soul. The three people raised their hands high and shouted with a strong aura. This reinforcement didn't come from their strength, but from the power of faith that the entire 9 provinces and 5 seas had for the 4 great families. However, there probably weren't many members of the Donghuang clan left now. When the news spread, everyone's impression of the Donghuang clan fell to the bottom. They didn't expect the Donghuang clan to be so evil that they raised their children like pigs and dogs. Yet, they actually respected them. What the hell? The three people also knew that even if Donghuang Ji came today, it wouldn't help. Along with the three people's shouts, a ray of light descended from the sky. The three people stared at the ray of light. They had seen it many times, but this time, it was clearly different. It wasn't as thick as before, it was much thinner, and even the color was much dimmer. The three people didn't expect that just one person missing would be so serious. The seal had at least decreased by 50%. Along with the injection of the ray of light, the surrounding stones started shining, but the aura that they were emitting was still very weak. Just as the three people were feeling helpless, a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky. These people were naturally Luo Qin, and Wei Chang was also among them. Jiang Wuyu looked over coldly and said gravely, "Indestructible Shrines people." Jiang family head, good eyesight, you guessed it correctly. Luo Qin laughed lightly. He didn't have any intention of stopping them and allowed them to reinforce the seal. Fu Wen and Long Chu's expressions darkened. These people are all from Indestructible Shrine. Their strength is definitely not ordinary. What are you all trying to do? Fu Wen asked gravely. Luo Qin said faintly, "Nothing much, you all continue with what you are doing, we will wait here for the palace master to break through the seal." The three people didn't say anything after hearing what Luo Qin said. They looked at each other, and they could see the heaviness in each other's eyes. Just what are these people trying to do? Since they are already here, why aren't they making a move? After a while, all of the ray of light was injected into the seal. However, not only did the three people not feel happy, they became even more grave. Because the seal was only reinforced a little, it was very disadvantageous to the current situation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1250. Everyone, you've worked hard. Do you want to take a break and enjoy your last moments? Fallen Dust smiled slightly, appearing extremely confident. This confidence, of course, came from the powerful temple master. But now, they still had to rely on Wei Chang. Long Chu said coldly, "If you want to fight, bring it on." Patriarch Long, you've misunderstood. The temple master is about to appear, so we naturally won't interfere. It's good to let the temple master exercise. I hope you won't disappoint the temple master. Fallen Dust had his own plans. The temple master was about to break the seal, so he naturally had to see blood. If they killed them all, the temple master would probably not be happy. Hearing Fallen Dust's words, the three could not help but shiver. The temple master had been sealed in the previous generation. Dong Wangji's father had also died in the war, but this death had firmly sealed the temple master, which was considered a good thing. Although they could do anything for strength, when it came to the point of death, they could still sacrifice their lives. This was really extreme. The three did not say anything. They stood in the void, waiting for the temple master to arrive, and then making their final struggle. This spirit was admirable. The drizzle seemed to be getting heavier, making the atmosphere even more solemn. The surroundings were filled with rustling sounds. Long Chu looked at Fallen Dust's side. There were actually two undead, looking gloomy and uncomfortable. Patriarch Jiang, it seems like it's about time, Fu Wen said in a low voice. Jiang Wuyu nodded. The three of them had come early, so they were definitely prepared. To win, they first had to have a formation. For such a life-and-death situation, the three did not hide anything. They told each other everything they knew, and then used the strongest formation to deal with it. So when they came, the formation had already been set up, and they only needed to activate it. Great Sorrow Cloud Incantation. This was the Long family's top-notch formation. It could even suppress gods. Its main function was to ruthlessly suppress the opponent, so that they could not use their full strength. Although the formation's function was simple, there were very few formations that could suppress gods. So few that only the Long family had such a formation. The three immediately separated, their hands emitting golden light. Golden runes appeared in the pile of rubble, emitting a thick aura that enveloped the rubble. Behind Long Chu, a huge illusion vaguely appeared. This was a Buddha statue. A divine aura washed over him. The Buddha's attribute was light, which was the natural nemesis of the undead. Although Death Mage and Death Assassin were powerful, this kind of formation that was able to suppress a superior god made them feel uncomfortable. After all, their attributes were mutually exclusive. There was nothing he could do about it. Yihua himself belonged to the undead race, and thus, Yihua had a weakness as well, and that was the holiness. Just like the aura that this Buddha statue was emitting out, it was definitely capable of making Yihua feel uncomfortable. Wei Chang could feel the movement of the two skeletons behind him, but he did not make any movements. Death Mage was, after all, a master mage. He immediately enveloped his entire body with a black barrier, and at the same time, he also helped his little brother to cast a black barrier. Only then did he feel slightly better. However, this kind of protective shield is not something that can be used all the time. However, Death Mage can feel that the aura that this Buddha statue is emitting out is becoming stronger and stronger. To the undead, this was double the damage and could easily destroy them. The three of them saw that the undead in the Temple of Indestructible were in pain. They had a feeling that they were indeed very strong, and even they were in pain. This kind of self-consolation was fine, but they soon realized that the other team's main force didn't react at all. Wei Chang could feel that the aura was powerful, but he could directly ignore it. After all, the other team's strength was right there. Fallen Dust and Lord Ming were definitely not as strong as Wei Chang, and their strength was not much weaker than the few family heads. If they were stronger than the three family heads, they would have long come over to destroy the Temple of Indestructible God Wei Chang. The reason why Fallen Dust was so confident was because Wei Chang was here. What a powerful formation. Fallen Dust laughed in a low voice. He agreed with the other party's strength. These three people are indeed worthy of admiration. Even though they knew that they were going to die, they still didn't hesitate. Jiang Wuyu and the others didn't say anything, and they were unable to calm down for a long time. Clear heart formation. Jiang Wuyu shouted out gravely. This time, it was Fallen Dust's turn to be shocked, and even that Lord Ming was shocked. According to convention, one cannot add another formation to a formation. However, this was a formation. This was unprecedented, which was why the two of them were so shocked. This was one of Jiang Wuyu's trump cards. Clear heart formation could be added onto any formation. Its purpose was to strengthen our battle strength and weaken the local strength. However, when stacked with the Great Compassion Cloud incantation, it was still a power that couldn't be underestimated. It could greatly weaken the local strength and strengthen our battle strength. Sword art. Fu Wen shouted angrily, and his hands quickly formed seals. A white cloud condensed in the sky, and it was as if a heavenly eye had been opened. A sword hum pierced through the earth, and it directly descended with a powerful aura. Chapter 1251. The two undead were gone, but that man was very strange. Until now, he was still smiling, without any sense of danger. But at that moment, the ground began to shake. As the ground shook, the expressions of the three family heads became incomparably grave, and the trace of calmness they had just now also disappeared. However, Luo Chen and the rest were all excited. After waiting for so many years, the palace master was finally going to appear. They had waited for this day for too long. Cracks began to appear on the shaking ground, and these cracks extended endlessly, letting out ear-piercing creaking sounds. The pouring rain seemed to be frightened, and the rain gradually stopped. Even the dark clouds in the sky were scared away. The entire air was filled with an indescribable terror. From the cracks on the ground, a horrifying pressure seeped out, and everyone felt it. It was still that familiar smell. Luo Chen, Lord Ming, and Drunken Cry all slowly knelt down. Wei Chang smiled and copied them. But to Jiang Wuyu and the rest, this was a declaration of death. However, the shaking ground gradually calmed down, and the dark clouds in the sky condensed again. Violent rain poured down, accompanied by the sound of thunder and lightning, resounding throughout the world. Suddenly, a hand stretched out from the cracks. This hand was covered with mud, but that was not the main point. The main point was that on those 5 fingers, there were all stones. Diamonds? Or gems? That was not known. But Wei Chang felt that this was a thick aura of a nouveau riche. 5 fingers pressed on the wet mud, and it was just such a simple action. Jiang Wuyu and the rest's expressions sank, and they all prepared to attack. But at this moment, a golden light appeared, and it was a little bright. A golden crown appeared in the air. On the crown, there were also many colorful stones embedded. It seemed that this palace master was really interested in stones. The 3 swallowed their saliva, and their heartbeats quickened a little, along with the crown gradually rising up, everyone could see the face of the crown. This face was very ordinary, not handsome nor ugly, but it gave people a creepy feeling. That pair of eyes seemed to be emitting a bloodthirsty light, and his whole body was emitting a bloody smell. The man's other hand was placed on the wet ground, and his face was very calm. That pair of eyes stared at the three people, as if he wanted to tear the three people in front of him apart. But at this moment, an accident happened. Ah! The temple lord screamed. He wanted to push himself up with both hands, but the soil was too loose, so he pressed himself down and fell back into the crevice. Everyone could even hear him. Plop! At this moment, a flock of crows flew across the sky. Croak, croak, croak. The entire arena was filled with an awkward atmosphere. How were they supposed to fight anymore? There was no need to fight anymore. It was too embarrassing. But Falling Dust said with a smile, "Palace Master still likes to play." Play? Wei Chang was confused. At this moment, Wei Chang felt it. A figure appeared behind the three of them. Wasn't that the Hall Master? He wore a golden robe with brin stones inlaid on it. Even his boots were golden. As for the pair of gloves, they were all made of brin stones. This was probably the upgraded version of the Infinity Gloves. "Hey," the Temple Master greeted him in a disdainful tone. However, it was this "hey" that made the three people's eyeballs almost pop out. When it appeared behind them. Why didn't I feel anything at all? The three hurriedly distanced themselves from the Temple Master and took out the weapons that they were proud of. Those weapons were simply colorful, and with a single look, one could tell that they were high-grade goods. "You are the Temple Master?" Fu Wen questioned gravely. "I didn't expect that the Temple Master would actually be so pompous. Look at the Temple Master that's dressed in gold." "That's right, why did you ask such an idiotic question? Why don't we have a conversation that has a high IQ?" The Temple Master had a look of curiosity and expectation on his face. This expression caused the three to be very puzzled. This is different from what we imagined. Shouldn't the Temple Master be a berserk man? The kind that would kill whenever he comes out? Why is he still in the mood to chat? Long Chu said coldly, "Do you even have IQ?" The Temple Master went into a daze, then suddenly pointed at Long Chu and said with a smile, "Brat, I like you." Wei Chang, this kind of confession came too suddenly, causing Wei Chang to feel horrified. No, this is turning a thriller film into a comedy thriller film. As the person involved, Long Chu was also very astonished. This man actually dared to say such shameless words. This is simply shameless awe. However, Jiang Wuyu was thinking, I wonder what kind of like this is, the kind of like that I have to bend over. This is a formation. Are you all the descendants of those few families? The Temple Master felt the aura of the formation and asked with doubt. However, if one were to listen carefully, one would be able to hear that the Temple Master's tone carried a trace of killing intent and unwillingness. The three did not speak. The Temple Master rubbed his palms together and said lightly, "Even if you don't say, I also know. It's not that I haven't seen this kind of formation before. Back then, your elders also used it to deal with me. Unfortunately, they succeeded." The corner of Wei Chang's mouth slightly twitched. This Temple Master has indeed refreshed my understanding of him. This is a bit interesting. However, to Luo Chen and Lord Ming, they seem to have already gotten used to it. The Temple Master's personality is just like this. While walking coquettishly, he would take off the enemy's belt. Hearing what the Temple Master said, the three were delighted in their hearts. Seems like this formation is effective. I lied to you all, you even believe this, idiots. The Temple Master suddenly laughed loudly, appearing to be very happy. The three's expression stiffened. this temple master is really mischievous to the extreme. However, being able to see you all, I am at ease." The temple master suddenly said with incomparable sadness. Jiang Liu asked gravely, "What do you mean?" "For you all to appear, it means that your fathers are all dead, you all are truly stupid." The temple master stretched out his index finger, seemingly feeling that his hair was a bit itchy, but he felt that it was impolite to take off the crown, so he poked his index finger into the crown through the gap. However, after he poked his index finger into the crown, his index finger got stuck. Awkward, this kind of awkward atmosphere appeared again. Could it be that this happened as well? Wei Chang asked confusedly. Luo Chen cried out involuntarily, This seems to be an accident." Wei Chang shook his head. "This is really too careless." Right now, the temple master was pulling out his index finger, and he casually said to the three, "I let you all watch a joke, it was a mistake, wait for me to pull out my index finger, then I will beat you all to death." The three, such arrogant words. "Have you eaten garlic?" Finally, the temple master carefully pulled out his index finger, let out a heavy breath, and once again wore the crown. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.